August 7, 1942, Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands. As the first light of dawn spread across the humid Pacific sky, the sound of landing craft engines shattered the silence. This was Operation Watchtower, the first major Allied offensive against the Empire of Japan. 11,000 United States Marines surged onto the beaches, their boots sinking into the wet sand. The campaign would be a 6-month crucible of fire, disease, and fear, fought in a jungle so thick that visibility often dropped to just a few feet. But amid the roar of naval bombardments and the clash of steel, an unexpected weapon would emerge. It wasn't a gun, a tank, or a new piece of machinery. It was something woven into the very fabric of human speech, a weapon of sound, of language. The capture of the nearly completed Japanese airfield, later renamed Henderson Field, became the beating heart of the entire campaign. But securing the perimeter of the field brought a nightly horror: Japanese infiltrators. These were silent, disciplined soldiers creeping through the jungle. They wore captured Marine uniforms. They spoke English, sometimes fluently. A voice calling from the shadows might say, "Hold your fire, I'm an American." And a sentry wouldn't know if he was addressing a friend or an enemy. The question haunted the Marines. How do you test the loyalty of a voice in the dark? The Americans needed a test, something quick, foolproof, and impossible to fake. The solution came from a simple yet profound linguistic observation. Master Technical Sergeant James W. Hurlbut, a Marine combat correspondent, later recalled the strange method in a 1943 interview. He told a reporter, "We always had passwords that included the letter L. The reason," he explained, was starkly simple. L was hard for the Japanese to pronounce. There's no distinct L in the Japanese vocabulary. The Marines didn't need a linguistics degree to know it worked. They only needed to listen. To understand the brilliance of the L test, we have to step inside the mechanics of language itself. In English, we have two distinct liquid sounds, the R and the L. Our brains and mouths are hardwired from infancy to treat them as completely separate sounds. But in Japanese, there is only one liquid sound, which linguists call a quick flap or tap of the tongue. It sits in the acoustic middle, perceived by native Japanese speakers as a single versatile sound that covers both the English R and L. To the Japanese ear, the two English sounds seem almost identical, and to the Japanese mouth, reproducing them correctly, especially under the stress of infiltration, was nearly impossible. This phenomenon is not about hearing or intelligence, it's about perception. From childhood, we learn the specific categories of our native language. By adulthood, even after years of study, it's almost impossible to unlearn them. So, when a Marine challenged a figure in the dark with a word filled with L's, the result spoke volumes. A native English speaker would articulate the L cleanly. An infiltrator, no matter how fluent their grammar, would likely slip just enough, substituting the sound with the Japanese flap, giving themselves away. There is one particular word that has become legendary in the Guadalcanal story: Lollapalooza. According to a wartime report, Marines sometimes use this complex word as a shibboleth. If the challenged party's response came back as Lollapalooza, the sentry didn't wait to hear more. He fired. While the use of Lollapalooza that specific night remains uncertain, L-based passwords were a real and effective component of perimeter defense. For the Marines, this was survival. The L test wasn't the only linguistic trick. One Marine recalled how a supposed American voice called out, "Hold your fire, we are American Marines, and wish to report our evening's activities." The sentry immediately shot. Why? Because, as he said later, no real Marine would talk like that. The deep, unconscious patterns of speech were a disguise no uniform or document could fake. The use of language to distinguish friend from foe has ancient roots. The word shibboleth itself comes from the Bible. In the book of Judges, warriors used pronunciation to identify members of an opposing tribe, executing those who mispronounced the word. The practice didn't end in the Pacific. During D-Day in 1944, Allied soldiers used a similar system. The challenge was flash, the response thunder, and the countersign welcome. Each word was chosen because German soldiers struggled with the th and w sounds. Language had again become a weapon. By February 1943, the Americans had held Guadalcanal, a turning point that forced Japan into a defensive war. After the conflict, linguists would study the very phenomenon the Marines had discovered by instinct: the simple truth that adults rarely learn to distinguish foreign sounds perfectly because our brains lock in the sound patterns of our first language during infancy. Modern militaries now use complex voice analysis and dialect recognition, all descendants of that simple, brilliant Guadalcanal idea. The L-test reminds us that war isn't just fought with machines, but with minds, with instincts, and with words. For the Marines of Guadalcanal, a single letter became a line between life and death, a story of how, in the heart of the Pacific jungle, language itself became an ingenious weapon of war. One wrong sound could be your last.